Hello everybody. This does feel not quite like my normal crowd. For the first thing it's quite important is you've chosen to be here. Our undergraduates kind of have to be here, there. So all I'm going to do is, don't worry, this is going to be quite gentle. We're going to cover a number of important topics, and I'm going to illustrate it through a combination of case studies that vary from baking, chocolate, and cannabis at one point. I also have something in this bag that approximately halfway through I will reveal. And I guarantee that at least a third of the people in this room, when I open up this bag, will go, ah. Okay? Stand by for that. Right, so we've got about 20 minutes. Yep, and all I want to do is share something with you that's gone into a book that I've written. Here is the book, this one here, okay, and you may be going, well, that's nice. So a Cambridge academic has turned up and said that he's written a book. Who cares? What I want to get across, though, is a very simple message, which I think is very important and very powerful, and it affects every single person in this room. Here's the starting point. Exactly. You will be featuring in a second. Every single thing you can see in this room now has been manufactured. Okay, unless it's a plant, unless it's a rock, we don't have any rocks, unless it's an animal, we do have some, or a human, it has been manufactured. Someone, somewhere decided that that thing was needed and designed it, got together the materials, did some stuff with it, assembled it, made it into a real thing that someone then bought. And that happens all the time. It is incredible. This amazing world of manufacturing exists. And I reckon for most of us, it is largely invisible. Now, at this point, you might also be saying, who cares? All right? The reason we should care is, you could say, well, you know, the sewage system exists, largely invisible. I'm glad it works. I don't need to go and delve into it. Manufacturing does matter, though, because it's created every product we could possibly dream of having can be delivered to us almost at a moment's notice. It is fantastic. We've basically cured the bottom end of Maslow's hierarchy. Okay, we have got there. There's enough in the world to feed everybody, to clothe everybody, to protect everybody. We have all that. It has been made. But it's rather unusual and rather worrying that it's not been distributed equally. So this amazing system, we can call it a complex system, as in lots of things connected together, has done something that an emergent system does, which is it develops properties we weren't expecting. It's done lots of good things, but the truth is, it's very fragile. Case in point being COVID. Look what happened then. Walk into the supermarket, suddenly no loo roll, no pasta, no flour, no sugar. Gone. Slightly more seriously, the hospitals ran out of rubber gloves and face masks. How is that possible in a modern world? You might remember a couple of years ago a ship called the Ever Given got stuck in the Suez Canal. So one person making one decision on one ship causes 10% of global trade to stop. The system is very, very fragile. Secondly, it's very unfair. It doesn't treat everybody equally. So every year, about 100 students leave Cambridge having gone through our manufacturing program, very practical, very applied, and they have great jobs. They do wonderful things making the world better. But there are hundreds of thousands of jobs in manufacturing that are not good. Just the example that's often quoted, child labour in the cobalt mines of the Congo, and the direct link all the way through to your smartphone. There's some really bad things happening in manufacturing too. And the third emergent property that's a worry is that it's not sustainable. This very machine we've built for making our world as rich and vibrant as it is, that very thing that's giving us the food, the healthcare, the transport, everything we need, is actually, rather awkwardly, destroying the world as well. So that book in there, copies available outside, is trying to take you through this journey. And I'm going to give you a super condensed haiku-like version of the book. All right? The first bit is just explaining how it is now. And the second bit, the second part of the journey, is explaining how it's going to get better. And spoiler alert, whatever we do involves everybody in this room. This idea that there's an evil thing called industry over there and, oh, it's doing bad things, is, I would say, rubbish. We're all part of it. We are consumers in a manufactured world. So, very quick, it won't be too undergraduate-y, don't worry. Factories, 3 parts to any manufacturing story. 1, you make stuff. 2, you move stuff. 3, you consume stuff. Making bit happens in a factory. Just so you know, there's different types of factories, but some of you will be thinking, I really do want some food, and thank you for hanging around before you go for your food, but I really love baking. I love cake, right? So my kitchen at home is a factory. It's a very particular type of factory called a job shop. I can make in infinite variety, but very low volume. I can make anything, in theory, that I could cook, but I can't make many of them. Then I go down the road to my local baker, in my case, Fitzbilly's Bakery in Cambridge, lovely shop. They can make things in units of hundreds. Batch production. Then as you move to the world of Mr. Kipling, where they're making 250,000 cherry bakewells a day, that's mass production, very, very different. And then you have continuous production, again with the baking theme, sugar. Basically, sugar beet, most sugar in this country is from sugar beet, comes in at one end of a massive factory in East Anglia and goes whoosh all the way through, out comes sugar the other end. That's continuous flow manufacturing. So that's all you need to know about factories. Why do we waste 4 years on a degree when that's all you need to know? Anyway, make, then you've got move. And I always like to think this. It is incredible. If an alien came down onto Earth and said, you people are very, very luxurious, you've got everything you could possibly need, but why do you move stuff around so much? It is mad what we do. It's because the cost of transport is so low. And so somewhere here I have a phone, right? So the components in this phone will have travelled at least 250,000 kilometres before it reaches you. At least, probably double that. Because all the backwards and forwards and toing and froing of components and bits and bobs, that's 6 times around the world before it gets to you. Mad case number 2, because of transport costs being so low, they catch salmon in Scotland, freeze it, ship it to China to be processed, ship it back to Scotland and the UK to be sold in the supermarkets. Okay? It's just because the cost of transport is so low. That's the moving bit. Then we've got us lot, all of us. There's the consume bit. So every one of us is a consumer in some shape or form. And that's really been something weird for manufacturing. Just think of this. Before the Industrial Revolution, back in the 1700s, the world of making was very simple. You went out and you said, I need a thing. I need some more trousers. You go to a person who can make trousers and say, make me some trousers. And they go, it'll cost you this. And go, I haven't got that. And go, okay, I'll swap it for a goat or whatever. You get your trousers. Then we came to the idea of mass manufacturing, mass production. Then we had to do a weird thing. We had to create demand. We had to find a way to say, we're making more stuff than we need. We've now got to convince us all to buy stuff. And that's kind of where the rot set in. And then manufacturing gets complicated about how do you convince people they want something that they don't know they want? How do you make enough stuff? How do you stop making too much stuff? That's all you need to know about manufacturing. Make, move, consume. So, perfect. Second half is that the whole world of manufacturing, because of us and our fickle and varied needs, is constantly changing. Every factory manager would love it if everybody just bought the same product. It'd be so much easier, but we don't. So manufacturing is all about improvement and dealing with crises. So COVID's a great example of a crisis, but the Russian invasion of Ukraine is a crisis. Suddenly the cost of energy shoots up. But there's 2 other types of change they have to deal with in manufacturing. We have to deal with in manufacturing. One is a new thing comes along and people go, oh, that's so cool, but how do we make it? So, exhibit number 1, that's judging the age of people in the room here. Nope, I'll ask it. Here is a mobile phone from the 1980s. Can you raise your hand if you ever used one like this? Oh my goodness, wow, I'm amongst friends. Right, can I, with a health warning, it's very heavy, don't drop it on your toes. Feel free to play, and so that's great. They made that, and the factory manager at Motorola went, oh, I've never made one of these before. Right, we'll start making them. And then you lot, us lot, said, I like it. Could you make it a bit smaller? And they went, okay, we'll do our best. And so out came this pocket-sized phone here. Again, I can see some of you going, oh, yeah, thank you. So it is kind of pocket-sized, but, big pockets required. So I'm sorry you're going to get all of these. There's more. So that's really nice. Could you make it a bit smaller? And went, oh, right, we'll really try hard on this one. It's getting quite hard to find them. This one. Right, this is great. Utterly pointless aerial. There's absolutely nothing. And this lovely tactile no red button, what a great feature this is. You don't just press a red button saying I've had enough of you. You go, oh, that feels good. Yes, let your anger out with that phone. Okay, stand by. Can you put your hand up if you ever owned a phone that looked like this? Ah, there we go. Oh my goodness, right. Nokia 3310, fantastic. It's getting your job is getting easier. Excuse me, madam. Then we have, it got ridiculous. This one's so small I can't even find it. They said, can we get really small? And this is ludicrous. And they said, right, we've nailed it. We made phones so tiny now, anybody can, they can't be any tinier. And then we all said, yeah, could we have the internet as well, please? We went, oh, hence we ended up with smartphones. So this is what engineers and manufacturing engineers have to do. We have to constantly improve and improve and improve because we all demand improvements. Last couple of points before I draw to the close. The next thing that's been happening in manufacturing is digitalization. I was very, very pleased to discover that the first application of electronic computers in the world of manufacturing was done by a company called Lions. Does anybody remember what Lions is actually famous for? It's not computers. Golden syrup, no, that's Tate & Lyle almost. Cafes and cake. So a company that was famous for cafes and cakes became Britain's first major computer manufacturer. Absolutely extraordinary. Anyway, we move on from cake briefly to seeing the world of digitalization. So suddenly every product, not every, many of the products we have and every bit of the supply network around the world is now generating data. Okay, us using our phones, you all being here, Apple, Samsung, all the app developers, they know where you are, they know what you're doing, and so they can enhance products and switch features on, switch features off. Very much the case in the car industry at the moment. They're, four-wheel software platforms, really. So this digital thing has shifted us right back to the heart of manufacturing. The choices we make, things we do, are actually feeding directly into improving the world of manufacturing. And the most extreme version of this is seeing the world of healthcare and manufacturing, where we see this environment where we've got, we are at the heart of it. We are the product that is being manufactured in some way. And you might go, okay, he's overshot a bit here, but let me give you a very specific example. For those with certain types of cancer, the treatment for it is CAR-T, chimeric antigen something T. And that is a mind-blowingly clever treatment. They take the cells out of the patient's body, send them away to be treated, to be meant to remanufactured, injected back into the body, so those cells will treat the cancer. Super personalized medicine. Really exciting, really interesting, but it completely transforms the world of pharmaceuticals. Because you stop producing bulk medicines that frankly, for most people, don't even work, and you go for personalized medicine manufacturing. That's a transformation with the patient, us, users, right at the heart of it. And that is a feature of the modern manufacturing world. And the last bit, I just checked my watch to say, yep, there will be time for questions at the end, by the way, so if anybody has any burning question, you can be fertling away in it now. The last bit is that we say, right, so we've got the manufacturing, you've got the basics, you've got the idea that it's constantly changing, that it's become very, very digital, which has made it more personal. I love people trying to make phone calls on those old phones. That's fantastic. And then the last bit is this, go back to Maslow again, and this is the wonderful, horrible dilemma of what's going on. This fantastic manufacturing system that's been constantly improved, that is absolutely mind-blowingly amazing, is actually destroying the planet. 3 quick examples. We need shelter, we need food, we need clothing. Manufacturing's got that sorted. Concrete, the wonder material that has dragged people out of poverty in very, very poor countries by building hospitals, by building schools, by building roads. It's brilliant. Unfortunately, it's the biggest generator of CO2 from any industry. It generates more CO2 than 4 times all of the aerospace industry. Okay, so yeah, please don't fly so much, but actually, probably use less concrete. Secondly, food. We produce enough food on this planet for at least 10 billion people. So nobody in the world should be hungry, and yet we waste 40% of that food. Clothing, what a great industry. Employs millions of people, brings people out of poverty, does amazing things. It is one of the most wasteful, the most polluting industries in the world. So we've got this problem with the things that we're solving, the problems we're solving is actually making things slightly worse. But I refuse to end on a negative note. The good news is we're coming up with clever ideas to dramatically reduce the CO2 emissions from cement. We're finding very, very clever ways to ensure that we only produce and don't destroy food once we've made it. We do smarter things with the way we make food, so from field to fork, there should be zero waste. I'll talk more about that later if you want. And then clothing, the world of clothing. And I'm very proud that we often sometimes think that younger generation haven't quite got it right, but there's absolutely one lesson that can be learned that I'm learning every day, which is seeing the way in which my children and all of their friends completely comfortable with services like Vinted. The idea that you would buy new clothes and then believe that if you give them back to the shop they'll recycle them, they don't. 1% gets recycled, if that. Much, much better to do the thing which is to buy a thing, keep it for as long as possible. If you can't keep it for too long, maybe you find another use for it or give it to someone else, and if it's broken, repair it. And I'm very, very excited about the world of repair that's creeping in more and more and more. So finally, I want to end with a very simple statement. All right? This idea that manufacturing makes our world. Whether we believe it or like it or not, it absolutely does. It is doing some very bad things at the moment. It's also doing some very good things. But we can't view it as someone else's problem. Make, move, consume. We are the consumers. We are part of the manufacturing world. And now that we have access to such huge amounts of data accessible to you right now on your phone, there is absolutely no reason why we all can't make slightly better choices to ensure that we collectively do help to manufacture a better world. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you. Hey. Thank you.